All right, welcome to another episode of Millennial Money Matters with Kelly Turner.
Derek Mazzarella and
Maggie Garden.
Maggie Garden. So Maggie's our guest. Maggie is a friend of both of ours that Maggie and I live a weird life where I don't really know how long I've known you, but it's been a while at this point.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
We were in the same industry. We're sort of in now adjacent industries. But we're here to talk about kind of a fun topic. And when Derek and I were discussing this topic, I was like, do you know who needs to be on this episode with us? Maggie. So what we're going to talk about today is what we tell our 25-year-old selves.
When you told me that this was a topic, I was like, how long do we have?
Yeah,
Just so many things.
I am in. And what's kind of fun is we're all generally the same age. So 25 years ago for all of us is pretty much the same. So for those of you wondering, that is the early 2000s, which feels like a really long time ago.
It does.
So I'd like to set the scene for everybody and have each of us just say what was your life like at 25? Where were you? How much money were you making? What was your living situation? You're over there, Derek. So why don't you start?
Okay. So 25 for me, that would have been 2010 for those counting.
Okay, that was a little later than me.
Yeah. So I had just started as a financial advisor, so I think it was a year-ish in. Not even. I started in February 2009. So I was living in Brighton with I was still living in Walpole. I was living in Walpole with 4 other dudes at a house. So Walpole is a town right next to Foxborough, which is where the Patriots play.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's, not near anything other than the stadium.
Right.
I had, like I said, my room was pink carpeted with pink floral wallpaper, so it was very affordable. I think my rent was $500 between the 5 of us.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, each. I was making no money. So I was we had a lot of house parties, I'll say that.
You had a lot of house parties. So you were making no money. Were you in a lot of debt at this point? Were you investing? Were you generally just living paycheck to paycheck, but doing all right?
No, none of that. So I was,
Not one piece of that is true. Okay.
Well, my first job was at Aflac, and I had no money. I was literally at the point where $500 a month, I had to borrow from my roommates to help me pay rent, and I'd be like, I'll pay you back when a commission check comes in. That's where I was at. I did not go out because I had no money ever. Let's see what else. My credit card was maxed out because I had a $750 limit from when I was in college, and my parents gave me that emergency credit card.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I had. It was maxed out, and I would make the minimum payments.
Oh my God.
I was making so little money.
Whew.
Yeah, it was tough.
Where was I at 25? So 20, how much older how old are you?
Are we doing
I am
math?
40. I will be 41 in July. So you are 1 year, 2 years older?
I'm 43.
2.
I'm 43. Okay, so a couple years earlier than Derek. I was 25. I know exactly where I was at 25. I was living in Middletown, Connecticut, in an area called Westlake. So if anybody's from Connecticut, you may know Westlake. Westlake is called Condo Heaven, and it is just condo complex, apartment complex, condo complex. Everybody there is between the ages of 20 and 30. There is a lovely bar down the street, which is now called Chicago's. Well, I don't even know what it's called now. It was Rookies when I was there. Then it became Chicago Sam's. I worked at the University of Hartford. I made $38,000 a year.
More than me still.
Yeah, I lived with my best friend, Dara. Shout out to Dara, who lives in Puerto Rico now, living her best life on the beach. But we lived in this apartment, and it was expensive. It was a really nice apartment. We had a pool. We had a gym at the apartment complex. It was really outside of my budget. I think I paid $900 a month to live there.
Money bags.
Yep. But I didn't actually have that money. We went out a lot. There was a lot of going out. There was a lot of eating out, which now I look back at that, I'm aghast at the amount of money I spent in restaurants at that point. And when I was 25, I bought a brand new car. That was my big financial choice of the time. Brand new car, probably not a great one.
When I was 25, I was in a really unique situation. I had just gotten promoted at this job, and I was making a lot more money than my roommates were, and I was having a lot of fun. We were traveling a ton. I did a cross-country trip in there, lived with 2 roommates. We split everything 3 ways, but I just lived day to day, adventure to adventure. There was no big plan.
Were you the money bags of your friends? Were you
Yeah.
I'll just pay for dinner, guys.
No,
it's okay.
no.
You were smarter than that.
I spent most of my money, on clothes. I was really big into, what are we going to wear when we go out tonight? And so money.
But you weren't stressed about money at all.
I still managed to not save a lot. So there would be times that I absolutely was stressed where I didn't have a ton in the bank. I just blew it
Came
all.
in, came out.
It
Yeah,
just came in,
for
came
sure.
out. Yeah, well, again, at that point, you're not thinking about it. Now, did anybody have a 401k at 25?
No.
No.
No. No, kids now have 401ks at 25, and they
Yeah.
should. You should. If you're listening to this, the first piece of advice I'd give myself at 25 was to
Well, I
take
didn't have
the
like what's
401k.
called benefits.
Oh, you didn't have benefits at all?
No, I had.
Oh, you were a commission guy.
Yeah, I was commissioned. So like I had none.
What
of
did
that
you do
stuff.
for health insurance?
I bought it on my own. It was like you could. This was like
Wow.
way back in the day. It was like we were the time where I was like I had 2 months. We know they just changed the Obamacare rule where you could be on your parents' insurance till 25, and I think I had like 2 months where I could have gone back on my parents' plan and I would have had to go off it again. But yeah,
Oh my
so I was
God.
paying on my own. They had an exchange in Massachusetts, so I was paying like 300 something, $500 a month or something like that.
I wonder if that was the age range though. So I didn't have the you could stay on your parents' insurance till you're whatever. When I graduated from college, it was the once you were out of school rule. So you had 6
Yeah.
months post graduation, and so I had to get my own insurance like immediately. And so I worked at Starbucks, and I think we've talked about this in the
Yeah.
podcast before.
Yeah.
Fun fact: at the time, I do not know the Starbucks rules now, but at the time, if you worked 20 hours or more, you were eligible for health insurance. Wow. Yeah, it was fabulous. So I worked because when I first got out of college, I did not work at the University of Harvard. I was a nanny. I did a bunch of stuff, but I worked at Starbucks 20 hours a week to have health insurance.
I actually, again, anomaly amongst my friends. I was part of an employee stock ownership program.
Oh.
So I had an ESOP at 26 and I was fully vested at that point.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah.
You were the right person to have on this podcast episode.
Now that I'm looking back, I was like, wow. I mean, back then that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I was working with people much older than me too, so it was a unique situation for sure.
Well, and I asked the retirement piece, and we have joked about this in the podcast before, and Derek knows this about me,
Yeah.
but you don't necessarily, is when I started my real big girl job working in higher education, I was offered a 401k that had a spectacular match, like the best match you've ever heard of anybody in your life. And I did not use it.
Yeah, it was like an out of control match.
Out of control. Nobody should have it.
It's like 9%. You put in 3% or something. It was like something, right?
I didn't do it.
That's wild.
I didn't do it because at the time I was making $30,000 a year. $50, I needed my $50, and I did not have the forethought to like think like, well, that $50 will be worth X amount someday. No, I was like,
Yeah.
I need that for gas right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of years of me working in that job before I was like, oh, I should probably do that.
Yeah, I should do something with this.
I should probably do that. So that's in fact what I did. But yeah, that was a 25. Okay, so I was really contemplating this because I like in my brain thought about who I was at the age of 25, who I am now, and there is some stuff like I don't want you, as if you're listening and you're 25, like don't think that I want you to be like all serious and like not have fun. But there are things that are small that you can do to make your life like a little bit better when you get older. So do you guys like, what are your thoughts? Is there anything that you thought you needed at 25 that looking back, you're like, oh my God, I was an idiot, or things that you wish you had done, like any big aha moments, like looking back?
I mean, this is the perfect podcast for it. I wish I was smarter with my money back then. I wish I knew more about investments. I wish I knew really what the trajectory of a 401k could look like if I started investing at that age. So that's always been one of those things that I look back and I was like, I wonder where, I would be financially, which, we're doing just fine. But if we had started at much younger, yeah.
What about you?
That's tough because I made so little money. It wasn't like, oh, if I just did this or saved here, it was like I put money and then I would try and either put money in the like back in the business, or I was like, look, I'm gonna have some fun. Like I'm gonna go out. I lived in eventually I moved to Boston or Brighton area first, and like I did want to go out, and I don't know. It's hard to really say like I wish I did this. I think the only thing I really wish I realized, especially living in that area, was that like I actually didn't need to put 20% down to buy a home, and I probably could have bought a property or a condo and had people live with me and did that whole thing even on my little crappy salary, or my income. So that's probably one thing I look back. I was like, man, I wish I did that, or convince my parents to like throw some money on a down payment, we go in a house together and make an investment out of it. That's one thing I probably wish I did.
How old were you when you bought your first home?
31.
31?
Yeah, about the same, 32.
Yeah.
I was 29. But that's always been one of my big regrets is I actually rented, like I did not live in the cheap apartment. I rented kind of expensive apartments and I lived with my roommate forever, and I look back and I'm like, if we had, instead of rented that, bought a condo together, and like she's still one of my best friends, so like I know that doesn't work out for everybody, but like, we'd be fine.
Yeah.
If we had bought a condo together, we lived together for almost 10 years. I could have paid off 1/3 of a condo, and like what would that? We probably would have bought in the area that we lived in. We probably would have bought a condo at that time for like $50,000. You know, like where would we be now? Those same condos sell for $253. So that's probably like other than the 401k, guys, please put money in your 401k. But that's probably like my biggest regret. Now, me buying a house at 29 sounds great. It was my husband already owned one house at that point, and so we bought a second house. So that was really not my doing. I can take zero responsibility for buying a house that.
I will tell you one big financial mistake I made. So I had that job at a financial advising firm for like a year and a half. Then I switched to another one, and they did give benefits, but it was like this weird thing where you kind of get off and on benefits. But I thought like, with the health insurance, they came with it, and they on renewal time, I thought it just automatically renewed, and apparently it didn't. And then I'm playing soccer like 6 months later, I collide with a goalie, our heads smack together. I see like all my teammates rushing towards me, like, what's happening? Because I didn't feel anything. And then I touch my head, it's like blood's everywhere. Ambulances come, like all that stuff. I had so many medical bills. I'm like, here's my insurance card. And like, this doesn't work.
Oh my God.
I was like,
I'm like anxious for you as you tell this story.
Yeah, hitting my stomach right now.
It was $2,000 just to have the ambulance called.
Wow. So did you eventually had to pay all these bills?
Oh yeah, no, they went into like default, and I had to negotiate stuff. I had to pay them over time. I think it took me like years. I was paying like $50 a month on one of them. I had a plastic surgeon come and do this, so like that was not cheap. Yeah, so like make sure you have insurance.
Yeah, renew every year that renews, and you have to agree to it.
You have to like review it, make sure you're looking at it. Don't assume it's just going to renew as is, because I thought that would happen and it did not. And that was expensive.
That was expensive. Did you guys worry about your credit score in your 20s?
Yes.
Oh,
because I
she
made
was so much smarter.
I learned by making mistakes. It was one of those like, hey, fill out this credit card bill, and you know when you go to college and they put the credit card bill in your at the bookstore back then when they had books for college.
Poster. I got a free poster.
Yes, and I filled it out and I was like, this is great. Just like swipe, living La Vida Loca in college, and then realizing like, oh, I have to pay that back, and I have to pay it on time or else. So I made some mistakes in not paying on time. So that hurt me for a little while after. So by the time I got to mid-20s, I was meticulous about credit, just from the mistakes that I had made in college.
What about you? Credit score? Did you care about it?
I felt I was so far away from ever needing it that I didn't really think about it. And like I said, my $750 credit card was maxed out. I wasn't like,
mine
it was not. I was like, how am I gonna get rent this month? I was not focused on credit score.
Oh my God, I was so anxious. If you don't know, I'm anxious to begin with. I was so anxious about credit. So I had, ready for this, a JCPenney's credit card. That was my one credit card.
I had Sears. Sears was mine. Yeah.
Got my first
$22.90. Yes. Well, and that was it. The JCPenney's card you could only use at JCPenney's. It was,
Really?
now store
Sears
cards
too,
you can use at other places. Like back in the day, store cards were not a Visa or a MasterCard. They were just the store.
Yeah.
And so my JCPenney's card was a JCPenney's card. I could only use it there. And it was like I need socks. I need underwear. Like, this is where I will go buy it. But I never used it because I was so afraid of it. And I would periodically get my credit card shut off for it being inactive. And then I would like panic because then your credit score drops and like I would have to get it turned back on again. And I think my credit limit, you joke about 750. I think mine was 250.
Mine was 500.
Yeah.
Such a big deal.
Yeah. I had a $250 limit. And I think I rolled with that credit card like for a long time. I don't think I had another credit card. And then I went through the phase that I think most girls go through. I don't know that guys do, where when you hit like late 20s, every store offered you a card for a discount. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you'll save 25% on this purchase, and that's like $182. Do you want this card? You're like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And then you have a Gap card and an Old Navy card and a Wet Seal card and I don't even know what I had. Express. Oh my God, the Express card, the Victoria's Secret card. Definitely had that. Like
You get the long wallet with all the cards.
all the cards, the long Coach wallet.
Of course.
The Coach wallet. That's back again. You know that,
Bougie.
right?
Bougie.
Coach is returned.
Oh.
They have made a return. The young girls love it.
Good to know.
But yeah, you like had all the cards, and then that got really hard because this was like before your password saved on anything. So you like had to have your like list of all the websites you had to log into,
Yep.
the username and password for them, so you could like pay the bill, or you had to wait for the paper bill to get mailed to you.
You just made us sound
Definitely
old
paper
now.
bill, yeah.
So you could write a check. I'm sorry, did you write checks to pay your bills back in those days? Yeah.
I did, for sure.
No, I
This
remember
is
paying
not the
online.
age difference. Is this the age difference? Like, was it right? It could be, I guess.
I was writing checks to like pay my rent, but I was not writing checks to like a credit card company. No.
I wrote a check to pay my car payment every month.
Oh, no, I had it taken out of my bank.
Yeah. No.
No.
I was a what?
I mailed a check.
Were you also balancing your checkbook?
Yeah.
Are you still doing that?
No.
Okay.
I actually did not have a checkbook for like 5 or 6 years, and I had to get a checkbook a couple years ago because PTOs at school, like school stuff, still requires a checkbook. Like they're like, "Can you write a check for this field trip?" And I went through a phase where I'm like, "I don't own checks," and finally I was like, "This is dumb," and I got a checkbook. But yeah, I didn't have one for a little while.
This is hilarious. Like the disparity between the three of us. It's great.
Right? It's so, but like we're all successful. We all make good money, but like how people deal, like, because Maggie's like, I have a checkbook. I know exactly where it is, and I balance it, in fact, every month.
Nope. I don't balance my checkbook.
No.
I just, because it's online. I
Yeah,
know
you
what's
just
coming
open it
in,
up.
what's coming
Yeah,
out.
you can. It's so easy to check it. There's no need to. You're
There's
like,
no
I know that
balancing.
charge. That charge makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a weird one. I got to call the bank.
Yep.
Like that's.
Yeah.
There is no balancing
Yeah.
of any.
Do you ever Google like what came out of your bank account though? Like there'll be like a weird
Yes,
charge.
I've done that.
Yes.
And you're like, what is this? And then you find out that that's like the local franchise name for Dairy Queen. And
Yes.
you're like, oh, okay. Dairy Queen is like MrIceCreamSmiles.com. It's
Yeah, the
like,
minute of panic, like, did I just get hacked?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Totally.
What I had one the other
That's a
day,
fear.
and it
Yeah,
was
I know.
for like it was like a friend because I never like I would think like McDonald's showed up as McDonald's,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. Like sometimes if it's a franchisee, like
Yeah.
it'll be whatever, like a
Yeah.
made up name.
Yeah.
BDB Technologies, and you're like, what is this? And you're like, oh, that was pizza.
Yeah.
That was pizza. Did you find in your 20s that you spent money to like keep up with friends? Was that like clothes, going out?
I mean, I definitely was trying to, fit the part, look the job. Because like I said, I worked with much older people. So yeah, I definitely was trying to dress to impress, I think, at that point, and definitely traveling a lot too. So
Yeah, tell me about this travel. Like you traveled a lot in your 20s? I traveled to like Deerfield Beach. Like
Deerfield Beach.
yeah, I mean, I didn't go overseas or anything. I mean, I think the farthest I went was, Mexico, but, or the Bahamas maybe, went on a cruise. But me and the roommate that I had at the time, like we just made sure that like a couple times a year we'd book a trip. And then before we went on the next trip, before the trip ended, we would have our next trip planned.
I want to be friends with Maggie in my 20s.
I would have been. I'd be like, oh, have fun in your trip. I'll see you when you get back.
I'm poor.
I know.
I have no
But you guys
money.
have to realize I spent it all. Like, I'm looking back now, I guess I have no regrets because what a great life and how much fun it was. But I mean, it was pretty risky.
It was pretty risky.
Yeah.
Did you keep up with anybody in your 20s?
No, I had like two friends that like made way more money than me, and they always wanted to go out to eat, and I was like,
Yeah, food.
I was like, oh my god, yeah. And one time he was like, hey man, I got a gift card to Legal Seafoods. Let's go. I was like, awesome. And then the bill comes, and then he puts like his half of the bill on his little gift card. I was like, oh dude, I thought we were like splitting the gift card, and I had to pay for my half like with my own money. I was like, oh.
This is not what I thought
Yeah,
we
this
were
is
doing.
no. So like, I definitely like, I'm like, we're not ordering apps. Like, if I go out, I was like, no apps, and I get mad because any friend that would order apps, I'd be so pissed because I know we have to split it.
Do you still have app PTSD? Like, no, we can't have that appetizer, or have you loosened up?
I mean, I've loosened up, but I'm also at the point like, oh, I need a mini meal before my actual meal. I just don't.
You like, I like to eat 47 string cheeses dipped in batter.
It's like, I don't know. Like, I
Crackers.
never like at home be like, you know what I could use is like a pre-cooked meal right now.
Listen, I would love an app at all times.
Oh,
Give
I
me
could
some
just have a
chips and
dinner of
queso.
apps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
girl
I-
dinner.
I think more restaurants just need to have a sampler items thing
Yeah.
on the menu where they just give you like 5 of the items, but smaller
Correct.
portions.
I'm in.
Correct.
Why isn't that more of a thing? Can we start a restaurant and do that?
Let's do
Let's-
it.
Okay.
Great investment in our 40s,
Partnership.
not
Working on it.
not in our 20s. I definitely tried to keep up. So, fun fact about me: all of my friends in college were engineers. Don't know why. if you got, for those of you who are listening, if you didn't get the vibes from like the get-go, I'm not an engineer, nor does my brain function in that capacity at all. But I love engineers. All of my girlfriends were engineers. Engineers make significantly more money out of college than everybody else.
Yeah, they're doing great right away.
Yeah.
They come out, even like 20 years ago, they came out making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
Like they come
Yeah,
out
I have
making a
friends
lot.
too in that area. They're just guns blazing. Here we go.
Yeah. So my friends were all rich and I was po. And so I was the like, they'd be like, do you want to go out to dinner? And I'd be like, I don't have money for that. And then you'd like wait. And my girlfriends would be like, oh, we got you. And I'd be like, yes, yes. I made friends with smart people. And they would pay for my dinner. But that was like definitely a struggle. Or like the drinks, like you'd go out to a bar and you're like, okay, I've had 2 drinks and they're $10 each, so that's $20. I have
Right.
exactly $20 in cash in my bag, so I am done now, which is why we pre-gamed.
Oh, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, pregame was
Power
the
hour.
ultimate saver.
They
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
do that anymore. That's not a thing.
That seems insane to me. That's the most
That's
cost-effective
not
thing.
because they like to go out and have like cocktails at it. Like they actually do the opposite. This is what I understand from a 20-year-old that I know. They go out for drinks and appetizers, and then they eat dinner at home.
See, I was always eat the dinner at home, and then we just did drinks at home. Then we went out for drinks later. So like we
more-
would go out. I mean, I was like I said, I was super
Fun.
poor. So like we would do all that stuff at home, and then we would go out.
I didn't buy. I don't think I like bought a lot of drinks in my 20s. That's also we're girls.
Like I don't
Yeah,
think
I
I
was
went
gonna
out.
say.
I don't think we went out of our house until after 10.
Oh, yeah, no,
Oh,
that
for
was
sure.
definitely
That's
a
true.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Now-
I would agree. There was the pretty power factor where it was like, well, I'm not really going to spend much on drinks
Yeah,
tonight.
I did not have that, but I had friends with that,
Yeah.
and so I
I don't believe you.
no,
I don't believe you.
I was not the girl people were buying drinks for. But my best friend, maybe she'll hear this. Dara, love you, is stunningly beautiful, and guys would buy her drinks everywhere, and she would be like, "Here you go, here you go." And I would drink my like free drink.
See,
"Here
that
you
must be
go."
nice. That's one thing I didn't get to experience.
No,
is,
guys don't get that.
It's like I think I had girls buy me like drinks like maybe 5 times.
Yeah,
If I ever see Derek out and he doesn't know, Jude and I, my husband and I will send you a drink and be like,
Right.
somebody just bought you a drink, Derek.
Oh,
Yeah.
fancy.
You'll know it's us.
You'll know it's us. No, I did not spend a lot on that, but we've definitely pre-gamed. And so for those of you Gen Zers, because apparently again you don't do this, pre-gaming is where you drink and then you go out and you drink some more.
Yeah.
But you drink your own, and usually the concoction that you're drinking in a pre-game is in some sort of large vessel, right? Like a jug,
Yeah.
a big pitcher, a trash can. It's
What?
a mix. You didn't do that?
No, I mean not in like college. I mean college we
College
did, but it'd
we
be
did
like
it.
We
we'd
did
be
that
like
all
a Jack
the
and Coke
time.
or whatever, or like
No,
we were
we
like
had, like-
drinking. I wasn't like coming in with like a Gatorade bottle filled with
Oh,
vodka.
that's all
and,
we
like,
had.
At 25.
Oh no, that's
Your
what we
parties
did.
sound really fun.
Yeah, that's
Like,
what we. That's totally
we did
what we
Power Hour. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that was
my
that
friend
was our
made a video
situation.
power hour, and it was split up of all comedy movies. It was amazing.
That's fantastic.
I still have the DVD.
Can we just give
Wait a
a
minute.
quick what is a power hour for those of you who are listening who did not power hour?
So every minute, the song, or in Derek's case, the video
clip.
clip would change. So every minute, and you would take a drink of beer, because if you took anything harder than that, you probably wouldn't make it through the hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so you were feeling pretty good by the time you went out.
So if I could say one of the things that if I could go back in time and know from my 20s is I remember in my 20s drinking a lot of like Popov and Dubra and like very like the plastic alcohol bottles at the
Yeah.
bottom of the
Ah,
shelf.
the plastic.
And I did not know that you could just spend a few dollars more and get something that didn't make you feel like you got run over by a truck the next
Yeah, I was
day.
a Svedka guy, and that was like $17 right hand.
Girls thought you were so classy.
I did, yeah.
Girls definitely
Tough
thought that
shelf
was
back
classy.
then.
Yeah,
Okay.
right?
All right, Derek.
That is a class. No, I drank Dubra, which comes in a plastic handle. And it literally, like, your body is like, you have just dumped gasoline inside of me. You're going to feel terrible tomorrow. Yeah, where now I'm like, oh, this is not bad. Like, you can feel fine the next day if you're not drinking swill.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I will say now, though, my husband and I, or even my girlfriends and I, like, we'll have a drink or two before we go out. Like, drinks are expensive nowadays. Like, we'll do that
So you're
now.
pre-gaming again.
We're back to pre-gaming
Back to pre-
25 years later.
Look at that.
Just like Coach bags, you know? Come
Just
back
like-
around.
Coach bags.
I have some vintage, I guess, in my closet.
You need.
Call
So
them
I
vintage.
Bring it out.
just said that to somebody. I wonder if they're worth money.
Call me.
Speaking of finances, I want because I have like a tote of them in like a closet.
So you didn't realize you're just making an investment in your 20s. It's going to come
Right.
around.
It's gonna come. It all
I did
comes
invest.
around.
Look at me. I did.
Yeah.
I did.
You just
by
didn't
way
know.
of coach.
You just didn't know. Is there anything that you did like as a large financial decision in your 20s that you look back on and you're like, oh, that was a terrible idea? Mine is buying a brand new car. That was mine. I bought a brand new car. I had a used car. I drove an 88 Ford Tempo. That was my first car. It was baby blue. It was beautiful. And then I like got it. My car was fine. It ran fine. I drove it through high school. I drove it through college. And then I like got it in my head that like I needed a brand new car. And I spent like $13,000 on a brand new car, which sounds like nothing now, but when you make $38,000, that's a lot of money. And looking back, I'm like, I could have spent like $5,000 on like a perfectly sufficient used car, and I would not have had like I think I had like a $250 a month car payment that crushed me every month.
That was a lot of money, though.
It was a lot of money.
Yeah,
it was a lot of money. That was probably like my biggest like, oh, this was so stupid.
I can confidently say I didn't regret any big purchases because I was just spending my money as I went along. So there wasn't a lot of money for a big purchase. So, yeah, no, just living the dream back
Living
then.
the dream. What about you?
Yeah, I didn't have any really big purchases. No, nothing like major that would set me back. It was like all the little stuff. And I just feel like I didn't have a good handle on I got a big commission came in. I better just maybe bank some of this because next month may not be as good. Like that, I didn't have that cycle figured out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little more risque.
I was like, woo, all right, let's do this.
I got some money in my pocket.
Yeah,
now.
like I had like one big kind of thing coming when I was at Aflac, and then my buddy's like, we're gonna go to Acapulco. I'm like, I'm coming. And then the next 2 months where I was just like, I made like no money. I was like, I should not have done that.
I should not have done that. Did you feel behind all the time? Like, did you always feel like your friends and stuff were doing so much better than you? No, maybe not you, because you apparently were fancy and had a good job.
I had friends that were buying homes at that age, and I definitely felt that twinge of like, man, I wish I could do that, but at this point I can't. So no, I definitely felt a little behind because there were people doing that.
Did you ever live at home like after college, or you went right to like renting?
I went right to renting.
Okay.
I mean, other than right before I got married, like there was like 4 weeks in between the house and that. But no, I went right to renting. Yeah, out on my own.
What about you?
I would spend like 2 weeks at home, and then that was off to Walpole.
Oh, I spent a year. So I graduated. Now I went to college locally. So like the university that I went to and my home are only 25 minutes apart. So like my life didn't have to change by moving home. So I moved home for about a year. I nannied, I worked at Starbucks, and my best friend who I lived with, she lived in New Jersey. That's where she was from. And she called me like literally a year into us being home. And she's like, hey, I got a job in Connecticut. Go find us somewhere to live. And I was like, yes. And so I literally went, and I had just gotten the job. I was actually working at a different university. I had just gotten a job at a university, so I had like a full-time big girl job, and we needed to live like centrally located in central Connecticut. And so I was like, so if you guys don't know, Cromwell is like the geographical center of Connecticut. So we ended up living in Middletown on the Cromwell line. And I literally looked at apartments, sent her photos, which by the way, back in those days, they were not cell phone photos. I took pictures with a digital camera and then emailed them to her after downloading them to my desktop. I sent her pictures. We picked an apartment, and she saw the apartment the day that she pulled up in her moving truck from New Jersey, and she moved in with me. But I lived at home for a whole year, and I could not have moved it. I could not have rented immediately because I had zero Dolores. So I did not have. And I actually think, Dara, I probably owe you money. I think she paid our like first, last, and security deposit. She was an engineer, okay? She was an engineer, and she'd been a bartender while she was at home.
She was doing okay.
Beautiful engineer with money, huh?
With
Nice.
money.
Sounds like the complete package here.
She was the complete package. She was absolute. Who drove a motorcycle and played rugby.
Okay.
Wow.
She's just keeps
Yeah, I'm
getting
gonna have to
better
send her
as
the
the
link to
conversation
this. Be
goes
like,
on.
Dara. But like so I was home for a year and then rented the apartment. I rented that apartment for a while, and then I rented an apartment in West Hartford for. I was in I think I lived in 3 apartments before I moved into my husband's house.
Yeah, I think I did. We moved year to year, my roommates and I. I don't know why we did that, but we did.
Like every year you moved?
Oh, that sounds aggressive.
Almost, yeah. But she was always finding the next best deal. I mean, I remember one time we lived in this old mansion that they had converted into apartments. But I mean, this thing was like the pipes would freeze during the winter.
But it was so cool, right?
We're washing like dishes in the bathtub. It was so cool. But divided by, it was $333 a month. That was my rent.
That's nothing.
It was pretty awesome. Yeah. So I was always down for wherever she wanted to go. I was like, sure, let's switch.
Was
it
it
up.
all in Connecticut? Were you in
Yes.
Connecticut? So you were in Mass, pretty much. Yeah, I was in Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, I moved around after, but yeah.
When did you start like contemplating investing? Was it in your 20s? Was it post 20s? You are like maybe a slightly different question.
Yeah.
Derek's like, I knew that's what I was going to do. I just didn't have the money to
I do it for other people. But not myself.
When did you do it for yourself?
Yeah.
Man, I think so. When I got my job after like the second financial advisor job at Bullfinch Group, I did get benefits, and they had a 401k, and they matched 3%. So I knew enough at that point. I'm putting 3% of my meagerly draw, not what I was actually making, just my draw, which was like $2,000 a month. I put that away. That was my investing because I had no other extra cash.
You had another extra money.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like once I got into the 401k game, that would be my first. And that was late 20s. Yeah.
401k. Yeah. So that was, when I finally got my 401k that I should have been getting all along was my first one. But I was really intimidated by like 401k to me is just, it was a benefit. Like I didn't, that wasn't investing. Like it was just, they took my money and then I could periodically log into a website and look at the money. And sometimes there was more money.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get what it meant. I didn't really understand like investing until my late 30s.
Well, that seems late.
Yeah. Like I did it because my husband did it for me, but I didn't get it. I didn't know what I was doing.
I just feel like there were at least, there weren't a lot of tools, and I still feel that way sometimes as I'm watching my kids, go through school. But there really wasn't a lot of education around, hey, this is what a 401k is. This is what it means to invest. This is what you can do with this little money, and this is what it'll look like.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a business college and we did not
Same.
go through any of that stuff. You think like we had the 101 stuff where they had like this is how you get around college, and this is the sex stuff that they talk about, but they don't talk about, hey, this
Yeah.
is like the money stuff that you need to know. Like that would have been helpful.
And by the way, here's a credit card application in your book for when you're checking.
Yeah, these
out
people are
here.
going to
Yeah.
offer you a Curious
Yeah.
George T-shirt. Do not take it for a credit
Curious
card.
George, that
And that is
sounds
a real story.
very personal, Derek.
Derek
I don't
has
know who
Derek's
that talks
scarf.
about.
Somebody got I got a poster. That's what mine was. I got a poster.
Yeah, I got a poster.
I think it was Sarah McLaughlin. What was her name? The one
McLaughlin,
who,
yeah.
who did the like
remember the
sad
poster.
crying
Yeah.
videos was mine. I went to art school. I don't know. They didn't really take us very seriously over there in art school. They're like, here's your poster and your credit card. Hopefully you graduate.
But there was no like discussion around it. So, I mean, how could I get into it early? Like, there wasn't enough information for me.
There also weren't like when we were growing up, there weren't a lot of like investment accounts. Like it's so
Right.
much easier
Oh,
now
yeah.
to open up like a Robinhood account or like something else. Like they hit E-Trade, but it wasn't like it still was clunky to do all that stuff. And you weren't like, oh, let me just Google this thing and it'll like come right up. And like it's just so much easier now than it was.
Well, that's even like, I talk to clients about buying houses all the time. And I'll get people in their late 20s, early 30s who apologize to me over, I'm so sorry, I don't know the answer to this. I'm so sorry, I have a question. And I'm like, guys, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer,
Yeah.
you can be whatever, and still have zero idea on how to do this. And I think it's changed now, but I think in our 20s, buying a home was actually connected to making a life change with a partner more than it was about your finances.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like it had nothing to do with whether or not you could afford it. It had nothing to do with whether or not you had the money for it. It was like, oh, you're going to get married to
Let's get a
somebody.
house. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to buy a house.
Yeah,
and that's
definitely.
what but you bought one before.
Well, it was like a month before we got married. It was a
Oh,
condo,
you were
yeah.
still-
No,
okay.
we bought a house and then the next month we were married.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah, we did that in the same year too. I don't recommend that, by the way.
same. I bought a house in November and got married in
yeah.
July.
Yeah.
And it was a condo in Boston. Ironically, though, I lived in 3 places all in the same street in Southie.
But
No
you
kidding.
still own the condo in Boston.
I still do own it, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, he's got a rental. I did not do those things.
Yeah.
My
You
house
stay
that I
there.
live in now is the first house that I bought. My husband again owned one prior.
Yeah.
So he bought a house. I moved into that house. We sold that house and bought a new house. But that's the house I live in now.
Yeah.
There's no changing it. But yeah, like I think if you're in your 20s, disconnect life changes to buying a house. The two things do not have to have anything to do with each other. Like
No.
we like
No.
to connect them. Like you're gonna get married and have babies, and it's time to buy. No, guys, you can buy a house without that.
And actually, I think that would be one regret I had too, because I did have friends that were buying real estate young, and then I remember, as I was getting to my 30s, they were selling that real estate, and they
Yeah.
had this, huge amount of money to either reinvest or, turn over into something else. So at the time, that would have made a lot of sense too. had I
Especially
known.
like where house prices were back then.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
it was
my God.
Just
And
after
interest
the
rates,
great
too.
financial, like the recession. So like the houses were on sale, which they never
Never
are.
are.
And I feel like, man, if I just bought something in Boston
Just
back
something.
then, like, oh,
All
I need
right.
to dump.
I have a couple of like
probably
quick,
go.
quick questions that I want to ask. These are just the like hot button ones. Ready?
Ready?
And this can be about money or anything. I'm going to start with Maggie. Advice to your 25-year-old self. I wish I knew
not everything's such a big deal. Like, don't be afraid to fail. You know, take the big risks. I mean, think about it. You read books, movies, books. Like, there's always this story. You're on a path, right? Here's the path, and then something happens. Cue, sad music, and then what happens at the end? Something great. So, like, take the risks. Don't worry about failure. You're gonna be fine.
All right, Derek, advice to your 25-year-old self. I wish I had started.
You should start investing earlier. Or
Yeah.
Maybe did one less drink and then just started opening an investment account.
One less
maybe,
drink.
Yeah.
All right, one more for you, Maggie. Advice to your 25-year-old self. The biggest waste of money was?
Clothes, for sure. Retail.
So much clothes.
So much clothes.
Same. All right, Derek, here's your last one. Rapid fire advice for your 25-year-old self. What was the best use of money?
Reinvesting my own business again. Oh. I didn't always hit on it, but always having that thought process of like grow the business first and then everything else will follow.
Yeah, I like it. All right, guys. So if you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s or whatever, it is never too late to make changes. I think, right, the big advice here is like, don't get caught up in other people.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in what other people are doing. Contemplate your future, which I think most of us did not do.
Yeah.
And even if it's just a little bit, like if you do a little bit when you're younger, I mean, it's going to
Yeah,
grow.
even that little 3% I was doing on my $2,000, like it added up. And
Yeah.
I would say like where you are today is not where you're going to be.
Right.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you next time. We'll put Maggie's info in the show notes if anybody wants to chat with her.
Yeah. Thanks, Maggie.
Thanks, guys.
Perfect.
The music.
You were awesome. Yeah, usually there's music that plays, but no music. That was fun.
That was fun.
I think that was